Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, we have a very special treat for you today because we have two special people. We have Anna Forrest, who is the founder of Forest Yoga, and uh, Jose Calarco, who is now the co-creator with Anna Forrest of Forest Yoga. Uh, Jose Calarco is also the director of the Australian Indigenous Dance Company, Descendants of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Dance Theater. And you can find out more about Anna Forrest and Jose Calarco at their websites, forestyoga.com and descendants.com.au. Welcome, Anna Forrest and Jose Calarco.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. You got that introduction right, because it was a real tongue twister.
Now, Anna Forrest and Jose Calarco, even though you are leaders in yoga and personal transformation, we're talking today about something very personal, which is your relationship as twin flames. And, there are people all over the world who are looking for love and wanting to find deeper connections in love. So, in your experience, what is a twin flame?
Okay. Well, a twin flame is the highest possible relationship. And it's not half and half makes one. It's one and one makes two. Now, a lot of people go, oh, come on, Jose, what about a soulmate? Well, a soulmate, you only have one twin flame. Soulmates can be many, and they don't necessarily have to be lovers. Sometimes they can be a best friend. They can be your son. They can be your mother. They can be family members. But a twin flame is just one. And a twin flame also is a partner that helps you realize your full potential. So you put the conflicts aside, you get over all that nonsense of relationship hurdles, and you just get on with the job of bringing out the best of each other. And that's exactly what Anna and I are doing. We're creating something magnificent without allowing our egos to get in between.
One of the disciplines, I would say, of twin flames that we've come into is to make our love for each other and our love for what we do more important than our righteousness or our neurosis. Like we all have little twists and turns that we learned in other relationships, and it's very important to recapitulate, to go through that and comb out the scarring from it and take the wisdom from it and become a better lover in many ways, like in a more expansive way. And our relationship feeds the work that we do in the world instead of working against it.
So all the previous relationships were just stepping stones for the real one, the real relationship.
Now, Anna, would you share your story of how you met Jose?
That has a few funny layers to it. And we actually both need to share that story, because I was doing a pipe ceremony, a calling ceremony in California before I came to Australia for the first time, where I was asking the sacred ones for help in a few different things. I asked for help in connecting to the Aboriginal people in a ceremonial way for when I went to Australia, to go out to Uluru and make a powerful spiritual connection there, which is, as some people know it as Ayers Rock, which is in the central desert of Australia, and a rock that I've dreamed about my whole life and didn't even know until about 20 years ago. I didn't even know it existed on this planet. I thought it was just in my dream time. And then my biggest request was, okay, sacred ones, I'm ready for my life partner, but this is what he needs to have. He needs to have connection to his own spirit. He needs to have his own magic. He needs to have respect for the elders and the ancestors in the spirit world. He needs to have respect for the Aboriginal people and the First Nation people. He needs to be able to respect the work that I do and be unafraid to love and be unafraid of the mystery. And I had a whole list, and it was like, sacred ones, I just need one person, just one. Out of all the humans on the planet, just one. You know, he needs to be alive in this time, not just a spirit form. And so what was so funny is at the end of that ceremony, a couple of really odd things happened, which is usually meaning that the spirit ones are present. Like a coyote started howling, which was lovely because coyotes in California have been friends of mine for a long time. And then I heard a train, which is really odd because I was at a friend of mine's yard in the mountains. It's like I don't hear trains there. I've been there many, many times. So it's just like, okay, a train. And then shortly after that, I went to Australia. And I think this is where you need to pick it up.
Yeah. Well, my local yoga studio was Body Mind Life. And the director of that yoga studio said, Jose, we have an American yoga teacher coming tonight. Her name is Anna Forrest, which, I'd heard Anna Forrest just from the other teachers that she's coming, but I didn't really know who she was. And just a few weeks before, I did another ceremony with another famous American teacher called Sienna Sherman, a very famous USA teacher. And I said to Philip, who was the director, yeah, sure. And I said, well, what's the budget? And he said, nothing. And, we're used to everything we do, every ceremony we do, we get paid. And I make sure Indigenous people get paid for their work. However, for some reason, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So come 6 p.m. that night, I had the group getting ready, putting the traditional regalia on, which was stripping naked, just very minimal clothes, and doing all body paint with something we call ochre. And I raced to get the lift, and this woman kept the lift open for me just enough time to come in. And there was 3 women, and I looked at them and I said, Anna Forrest? And she said, sometimes. So I thought, oh, okay, we have a smart ass on our hands. Okay, she'll learn that us Australians, we don't turn the other cheek. And anyhow, we had this funny conversation, the 3 of us in the elevator. And then they asked me, who are you? And I said, you'll find out. And I stepped out of the elevator. Then Anna began her book launch, not knowing that I was going to ambush her with our dancers. Anna began the book launch, and then we came down the hallway, didgeridoos. Didgeridoo is an ancient traditional Aboriginal instrument. It's the world's oldest woodwind instrument. And we had music sticks and clapping, and we're screaming coming down the hallway, making a cacophony of noise. And then we stepped in, and I said, Anna Forrest, come out. And then the 3 of the girls looked at me, oh, the guy from the elevator's back. So then I got Anna to stand in front of like the cream of Sydney's yoga teachers and musicians. And we performed a ceremony with her with 2 dancers and 1 heart healing. And it was absolutely mind-boggling, and people were crying. I actually have it recorded on my iPhone still, and it's got something like hundreds of thousands of views. And everyone was brought to tears because a real Aboriginal ceremony, dancing, it's far beyond entertainment. It makes a connection with the physical and spiritual worlds, and it was a purely magical situation. And when we'd finished, I said, "Welcome to Australia, Anna." And then I walked out the door and everybody laughed.
So for me at that moment, it's like Phil had come up to me and I was just about to start my reading and all that. And I was like really strategizing because I didn't have the poses to help me with my communication. This was just words, right? So I was very concentrated working on that. And Phil just said, wait, we have a show for you. And it's like, what, like a warm-up band? I'm on a time clock here, Phil. I was like, yeah, okay. So I pulled over to the side of the wall just to wait for whatever he had arranged. And I heard all this noise and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how a didgeridoo sounded. I didn't know what clapstick sounded like. And then when they came into the room, like with very dramatic moment, it was like, oh my gods, my sacred ones, this is my ceremony. And I heard, I'm not being jive. I heard the sacred ones laughing when I said that, because it was everything I asked for in the ceremony, everything I did prayers for. I didn't know it because there was the Aboriginal people. They did a ceremony for me. They did a spiritual baptism for me that night. There was Jose. I didn't have any idea who Jose was. And then later that year, we went to Uluru and had an amazing time that was very, very, very potent, and also a very important time for bonding with the land. It was all right there.
For people who don't know what Uluru is, it's one of the 7 chakras of the planet. And some people say it's the heart chakra of the planet, but there is a debate over that. But the Aboriginal people tell us that Uluru, the sacred rock in the center of Australia, is where humans first begun. We didn't come straight into bodies. We were consciousness in mountains and rock face for millions of years before we could assume and evolve to bodies. So the rock is a conscious, living being.
Now, Anna, Forrest, and Jose Calarco, in your experience, what is the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame? And I know, Jose, you touched on that a little bit, but what's your view of it?
Well, the soulmate is, like I said before, that soulmate is a very deep connection. I've had soulmate connections and I've had twin flame connections, and there is a big difference. You know, as I said, you could every time you incarnate, you could have 6 to 8 soulmates, but you've only got one twin flame. And boy, oh boy, you have to be really lucky to find the twin flame. Firstly, love must find you worthy. So you need to set up the conditions to be worthy of love. You know, all this self-hatred talk and all this neurotic and dysfunctional thinking patterns will never ever lead you to. A lot of people I know, a lot of my friends are with their soulmates, but the soulmate thing dies pretty quickly after the initial sex and the energetic, sex magic connection. As soon as that wears off, it's like dead bodies living together paying bills. But with the twin flame, it continues to evolve non-stop, and it's far beyond a sexual thing. It's striving to find the reason we are here for, and that is to find, to be ourselves, but at the same time not to be stuck in the self, but to find illumination and go beyond the thinker and come into the sacred space of the second attention in the mind, which is just underneath the clutter of the mental noise. So the soulmate can bring a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, but it can also have its limitations as well. So it's sort of like going from general manager to, director. Or let's go chairman of the board.
I also think, for me personally, in looking back at my other relationships, I can't really say any of them were soulmates. I mean, if I was soulmate with anything, it would be with the stars or with some of the animals I've been connected to. So it's like I don't speak from experience with the soulmate, but with this growing inside of this twin flame relationship, our commitment to evolve and support each other in our evolution is very strong. It isn't just to coexist or survive. It's like there's a reason for us to be together. And part of my personal evolution was to learn how to love, because what I discovered about myself is I always heard the romantic nonsense and fantasies about love and the movies and the books. And I just thought, if there's really this thing called love, I want to find out what it is. And what I found is that I didn't even have the neuroreceptors for love. And since I had learned in my yoga process and in my ceremonial process how to awaken dead parts of myself and bring them back to life, I decided I needed to grow the neuroreceptors for love. And boy, has that been a wild ride. And one of the things that I really say to anyone who's interested in listening is you must put your neurosis aside. If you are going to make this commitment to love, put your neurosis aside. And it will also help you heal your neurosis. Because we have all these reasons for our internal shapes. And those of us that have had abuse histories, we kind of use our abuse to manipulate others. And that has to stop. That has to stop. And that's really strong, because almost everybody I've ever worked with that has an abuse history, at some point in time, they start using it to manipulate the people around you. And it's like, okay, now you have to evolve past that. Your safety does not depend on how you manipulate other people. You need to stand stronger in your own luminosity.
Yeah.
Build that instead.
Yeah. I also ask the listeners, can they become miracle ready? All my life, I've always had a relatively free mind. I never got stuck in any beliefs or systems. And I was always ready, miracle ready. I was always ready for a miracle. And it happened with Descendants, Forest Yoga. I had so many projects where I had a free mind, and it wasn't stuck in any one form of neurosis. So miracles are something that have always come to me, although it took a long time for this miracle, the twin flame, but it did come eventually. But I've always had the sacred ones on my side, because I've always tried to live life of integrity. And I've tried my best. I'm not perfect, but I was always had the free mind to be ready to accept the miracle. A lot of people don't want to accept. They don't think they're worthy to accept.
So I have a suggestion, because this was something that was really helpful for me. And it wasn't like, oh, I need to do this thing to grow into a twin flame. I didn't even know what a twin flame was until we were together, and it came, someone mentioned it to us, and it was like, that's so right. But I made a pledge to myself that was really helpful, which was to either be touched by love or to create that energy at least once a day. So it was like a practice for me. Instead of going into my complaining or my arguments or my hostility and my anger about the world and all that stuff, instead of steeping in that, to give myself a different kind of soul nourishment.
Catherine, I remember the first time that someone presented the twin flame concept. It was when the New Age was being birthed in 1986, 87, when Shirley MacLaine wrote Out on a Limb. And then all of a sudden we had New Age bookstores, New Age music, crystals, feathers, Native American. And I had this wonderful clairvoyant, and I said, And one day she said, oh, one day you will find your twin flame. I said, what? You mean soulmate? And she said, no, 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 you'll find your twin flame. And I thought, oh, come on, this just sounds like new age nonsense. And sure enough, I said, well, where is my twin flame now? And she said, she's overseas. And I thought, and I said, will I ever find her? And she goes, one day you will come across her. That was 1988, 89. And I just said, oh, yeah. I've heard it all before. Yeah, when the time is right, it's going to happen. All this new age jargon. And I said to myself, even if I don't believe in the twin flame concept, it's a great name for a song. So I'm going to keep it up my sleeve to write a song. And finally, when I met Anna, I did write that song. And I tried to find that clairvoyant, could never find her again.
I'd love to meet her.
Now, Anna Forrest and Jose Calarco, how can someone recognize their twin flame?
It's very hard. Like it's not like firstly, you find your twin flames in very unusual places. In us, it was an elevator. Now, I've heard other twin flame stories, and I've researched this on the internet, that the twin flames, you always find them in very unusual places, not a bar, not a pickup joint. You find them in the most unlikely places. And, it wasn't like just a wow, there she is. It was, it took some time. Oh, okay. Now I see myself reflected in her eyes, but it did take months and months for me anyhow. And it's not a whammy, it's something that grows on you. But once you find the twin flame, the connection and communication will not stop. Now, I've heard some people go, oh, Jose, I found my twin flame, but we still busted up. And I thought, maybe check that out. Maybe it could have been a soulmate. But I'm sure that it happens to the best of us. While we're still in skin and bone, we are vulnerable.
We in our relationship, we've come to many crossroads where I think if we had chosen differently, or stayed on the side of our righteousness or our anger or whatever it was, we could have destroyed what we had. We could have, but we didn't. It's this is a living energy with us, and it needs to be nurtured, it needs to be tended to, and not poisoned. Like people can poison something good. They can poison their relationship with their lover, with their distrust, with their stupid actions. And so it's like, you need to take very good care.
Yeah. And love is a very vulnerable field. Like when I first met Anna, I was actually single. And, I had my act together as a businessman, as a spiritual man, doing healings and clairvoyance and all that stuff. But I always was vulnerable in the love life. And I came off a huge divorce where I lost a significant amount of money. And then I went into a meaningless relationship where I got the person pregnant. And then the mother of my children tried to commit suicide. And I thought, wow, maybe that's enough women maybe I'll just stay single and try to become a monk and try to cut off my sexual energy. But it didn't work out. And, when I first met Anna, there was something trying to make sure it doesn't happen, an energy of destruction. And I was able to put that aside and go, okay, we have a job to do in this world that's bigger than Anna and I as a couple. And since then, we've had 8 wonderful years of trying to transform the world, training by training, workshop by workshop.
Now, that leads to my next question, which is how does your relationship as twin flames empower your work together at Forest Yoga?
So many ways. So really, let me start with a basic way, which was in the things that I taught, I had people who assisted me, but no one that was actually like 100%. You know, they could do whatever bits they could do, and I could get some support that way. But now, because of what each of us carries, there's moments of quiet while the other one can pick it up, you know, or like if Jose is teaching and we actually are teaching live, not through cyberspace, then I can go in and put my hands on people in a healing way or focus on an individual's needs. Or if I'm speaking about something that I'm passionate about, Jose can look at his notes and make sure that he has everything he felt was really important to bring up to our people. It's like there's a give and take, and we're quite different. And so the people get this rich feast of things that we love to present, that we're passionate about. And for both of us, we've had a tendency to be solo in a lot of ways. And so to actually have the support of working with each other, it is restful. It's very energetic and we can get exhausted doing it, but we also can rest and lean on each other and get support in ways that we didn't have for our entire life. So there's a whole different co-creation between us. Like honestly, as much as I respect the work that I was doing before we met, and I love what I was doing, it is growing into something that I could not grow on my own. It had to have Jose's energy for it to transform into what it is growing into now.
Yeah. So I looked at Anna's course, and being an artistic director and musician, I like to bring these elements into yoga as well. So I did Anna's course, and I thought, okay, great. There's a foundation of something really great here. However, this is how we are going to evolve this. First, as a businessman, I took over the management and I weeded out all the people that were not committed and were basically just leaning on Anna and using Anna. And then secondly, I brought in the veganism. I brought in all the professional musicians and audio. I began shaping classes like a good movie. When you see a good movie, you know you have an amazing beginning, an intriguing midpoint, and a happy ending. And so I started constructing things like artistic direction into yoga, professional audio, bringing in First Nations people, over 160 different musicians. Wherever we were in the world, we would bring in culture. We begun doing acknowledgements at the beginning of every class, like acknowledging the American Indian if we were in Australia, the Maori in New Zealand, the Aborigine in the Aborigine in Australia. And there were so many, basically 2 lifetimes of experience came together, and we created something unlike any other yoga teacher on this planet. And our online trainings reflect that the students that have taken the online trainings have said, wow, guys, this is, 2 to 3 levels beyond any other online stuff we've seen. And that's because not only do we have Anna's 45 years of experience as a yoga master and somewhat being like the elder of the Western yoga system, but then my lifetime of experience as a vegan, medicine man, artistic director, musician, songwriter, and bringing in all these forces together, we have created something extraordinary.
And so using that also, like for example, when we just finished this teacher training course that was live online and recorded, and we had all these different options for people to take because of what we were forced into from the lockdowns and all that stuff, it actually motivated us to create this new form that people can learn from. And we're going to be doing it again with our advanced teacher training, October 2nd through the 10th.
Yeah.
And it will be something people can participate through recorded sessions, through parts of it live, through having one of our assistants help them through in cyberspace so that they can get their questions answered. And it's a whole new creation. On my own, I could not have done this, and together with help from other people who are like very techie people, we're creating this beautiful way that people can interact with these teachings. And it's like, makes me so happy to be doing this, because this is another place we're growing that I absolutely didn't foresee that we were going to be doing. So it's like a big surprise. It's like, here's this beautiful co-creation that we're doing. And it also involves our community, and it also provides further training for our guardians and our senior teachers, and ways for our Forest Yoga teachers to evolve through assisting through cyberspace. It's wild. So it ticks all the boxes of what we want in our offerings to the people.
Yeah. And it's been wonderful to come in and manage Forest Yoga as well. So whether your job is to be a medicine man or a manager, it's the same thing. You bring that integrity and creativity into each aspect of the business.
One of the things I learned, this is another aspect I think that's important in our life. So I don't want to like say this is a rule for all twin flames. I don't know if it is or not. This is the things that have made a difference to me, to us, is I've always had a lot of resistance to the computer. I didn't like looking at it. I got headaches staring at it. I didn't deal with emails very well. And I learned through some webinars that I could actually reach, like right through that little green camera light, reach and touch people with what I had to say and do. But then Jose taught me something really amazing, which is his attitude about emails. I thought emails were just the nonsense of business, like just garbage. And he said, when I do an email, I'm sending out the seeds of the future. And I was really touched by that. It's like the work to be done on a computer is as honorable and as integral as any of the other aspects that I do honor. But I was dishonoring this aspect of what the business needed, and was creating a dysfunctional part in my own business because of my bad attitude that I was very righteously attached to. So one of the aspects that I see in this relationship as twin flames is that we are open to learning from each other. And that sounds really easy, but once people become lovers or married or all that, then it becomes harder to learn from each other, because there's all this shell that builds, like of resentment, and you didn't do this and you didn't do that and blah, blah, blah. And that's where it's like you have to put that stuff and like crumble it out of the way so that you can be tender and receptive to each other. That's part of the ongoing work.
Yeah.
Now, Anna Forrest and Jose Calarco, in your experience, are there any specific challenges of living and working together as twin flames?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In the past, every time I tried it, it was a failure. But with Anna, and at the age that we are now, this is like our swan song. This is our pinnacle of life. And absolutely no challenges whatsoever except exhaustion, because Anna and I really take on a lot. Besides being head teachers, we also do all the music, all the song, the management. We take on a lot. So the biggest challenge actually is the physical challenge of having the energy to do what we do. There is not one day in our lives that is not filled with something, whether it's an interview, whether it's 6 hours of emails, whether it's a 3.5-hour yoga practice, testing a class out, whether it's rehearsals on piano, guitar, songs, creating, writing. Every day is full and rich, and there is no time for nonsense. No time for nonsense.
Now, In your experience, how can people who are wanting to have deeper, more fulfilling, intimate relationships prepare themselves to find their twin flame?
All right. I want to address this because people have a tendency to live in withholding. And it's kind of like people have such weirdo concepts of love. So maybe dismantling and unpacking some of that. And I liken it to food. Like maybe you have one really great feast. Like let's say you had a great love relationship and that person left you or died or something. And then you'll never let love touch you again like that. It's like, well, that's stupid. It's stupid. It's like if you have a great feast of food, you still need to eat the next day and the next day and the next day. So practice taking in a loving way. Like I said, you need to prepare, you need to practice, you need to strip down the things that keep you in disconnect and be brave enough, courageous enough to feel fully. Like for example, because I would always limit how much I felt because my feelings, in my early years, my feelings had a lot of pain and suffering. And so I would try to go numb to it. Well, that's a great technique when you're being tortured. But when we're learning to love and learning to build your luminosity, you need to strip off your shielding on a regular basis. It's sort of like the gunk that builds up in your mouth overnight. You need to do this on a regular basis. And we use yoga to help do that and walks in nature so that you are more and more receptive and perceptive. So learning to perceive more and more of the truth is really important.
And simple things, Catherine, like diet, is very, very important because really you are what you eat. And the average American diet is absolutely an atrocity when you consider that 72% of all deaths are related to diet and lifestyle in the USA. Also, people on pharmaceuticals and alcohol, which I think is something like 70% of Americans, it's going to be very hard to receive something authentic while life is such a blur as well. So you got to, like any medicine man or shaman knows that you got to clean up your own act before you can receive divine guidance.
Like for people who, let's say we use yoga as another metaphor, it's like if you want to be a great yoga teacher, there's something you need to do. You need to do yoga. And I know that sounds really crazy, but since this is my world, it's like many people, once they start doing yoga and then they start teaching, they stop doing yoga and then they become resentful, full of toxicity, hypocrites. It's like you have to practice. If you want a love relationship, you need to practice loving and not just save it for this big mystery lover that's going to come to you. It's like you need to get your heart exercising in love, in courageousness. In the middle of courage is the word core, which is heart. It takes courage. It's a lot easier to live numb and shut down and half dead, but it's sure boring.
Yeah. Getting miracle ready has many aspects. There's the physical, there's the emotional, there's the mental, and the spiritual. We come in 4 parts, and love will find you worthy when you really treat your body and soul like a temple.
And you need to run that energy through you on a regular basis, whether it's love of a tree or a pet or the wild ones or your family or whatever lover you happen to be with. It's like, can you learn this great mystery of love? Can you immerse in it daily and begin to walk through these unutterably beautiful fields of love?
I have to compliment you because I literally feel my own heart just opening up as I'm listening to you. So wonderful message, which kind of brings me to my next question. So many people who are listening to this program may already be in a relationship. Is there anything that people can do if they're already in a relationship to deepen their connection with their intimate partners to experience what you experienced as twin flames.
Yeah, start doing things together. You know, you may want to do a dance lesson together. You may want to do a vocal lesson together. Do something different. Do something that takes you from the ordinary to the extraordinary. But you must start doing things together. That is a start, because as I said earlier, you know, a lot of relationships just turn into dead bodies living together and paying bills. The man is off watching the sport on the lounge. The woman, you know, is off doing her own thing as well. You need to rekindle the fire by doing things together. And if the fire really has burnt out, then sometimes it's best to move on. Uh, if you've been in a bad relationship for 10, 20 years, wasted 20 years of your life in I know that I wasted 5, 6, 7 years in a relationship that I was hanging on to because there was children in it. And I didn't trust that I could step out of that relationship and still have the children's best interest.
I think sometimes people are quick to think that they have to destroy their relationship. And instead, within the relationship, start doing these practices of love. Like, give your partner a back rub, a foot rub, a hand rub. Rekindle the delight of touch without it only having to be sexual, because if it's only there, what happens, unfortunately, is people end up bouncing off each other because they get so much stuff impacted between them that they can't make that intimate connection, or they don't do that tenderizing process, and so the sex becomes less and less delightful until it's nasty. And you know, with a woman, if she can't really feel that, she doesn't lubricate, and then it really starts to hurt and it becomes quite dreadful. So it's like it's the couple's responsibility to move stuff out of the way. And I hear from so many women like, oh, if he would only do this. It's like, stop it. Stop making it all about things would be good if only he would do this. What can you do? How about if you like lay him down and rub his back for a while, and that's it? Not like, oh, if I rub his back, then you have to pay this way. It's like, just do that. Do something sweet for each other.
Yeah, do yoga together.
Yeah.
Start doing yoga together. Like I said, dance or do something together. But unfortunately, in today's times, pornography has killed love, and pornography is targeted at men, and it's free. Pornography is free. If something is free in society, you are the product, you are the slave.
Now, at this time in our collective evolution on the planet, are there any messages that the two of you wish to share to empower others to experience greater love in their own lives?
Can it be a quote?
Yes.
Well, we always like, everything you want is on the other side of fear. I don't know who said that, but it is absolutely true. It is totally true. You know, we don't do things because we're scared of the outcome. But Anna and I, we heed Shirley MacLaine's message. If you want to pick the right fruit, you must go out on a limb.
And to risk feeling fully. So it's like, oh, I don't know if I can love him. He's betrayed me. La la la. Well, stop making it all about him. Can you have love with the sacred ones, with your creator, with whoever you can, your own spirit? Can you have a loving relationship with that, with the planet? It doesn't have to, you know, it's like if we pile it all on this one person, the responsibility in your like fantasy loop is really unfair. You know, so stop doing that. Start finding out, who is this person? Because what also happens in relationship is we develop an idea of who the person is, and we stop questing for it, and it blocks growth. So who is this person? I met this man 8 years ago. Who he has evolved into is quite different from that person, and quite beautifully different. But to keep questing for that instead of thinking like, oh, I know, It's like right here is the great mystery enfolded in skin, and I get to interact with it. How amazing is that? Bring that.
Beautiful message. Any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, when you get triggered, breathe deeply. Keep your mouth shut for a while until the stops trying to come out, and then find out what can you say that actually brings healing, resolution, and a rekindling of love.
Make a spiritual contract with yourself. Sit down one night and say, what do I want in life? What do I need to do? And then sign it, bury it at a tree, pray with the tree, and then make a commitment, because nothing, if you want a different future and different experiences, you need to change your actions. New actions lead to new people, new opportunities, and new experiences.
Beautiful message. You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guests today have been Anna Forrest, founder of Forest Yoga, and Jose Calarco, who is the now co-creator of Forest Yoga and director of the Australian Indigenous dance company Descendants Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Dance Theatre. You can find out more about Anna Forrest and Jose Calarco and their wonderful work at forestyoga.com and descendants.com.au. And remember, keep your heart open, prepare yourself for miracles. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.